Chapter 1. Exquisite lockets, magnificent bracelets, beautiful ornaments made with human hands. My sales pitch merges with the hubbub of the market as I navigate the narrow aisles between stalls. I raise my voice a few decibels, hoping that it will find its way into the pointed ears of my potential customers. The dangerous part comes when the Fae decide they're actually interested, of course, but I try not to dwell on that as I tug one end of a chain from my bag, looped around with my creations. Wear the treasures of Steerland on your wrist, in your hair. I give the chain a little shake so that my trinkets jangle melodiously and glint in the sunlight. The balmy weather at the market is a trick of fairy magic. On the other side of the twining line, Steerland is gray and muddy and damp. Treasures, you say? A lilting voice stops me mid-step, and I spin to find the source of it. A lady with hair red as blood stands by a baker's stall laden with sugared buns. I don't know the baker. He's human, but he must be from a larger town north of my village. He glares at me as she turns her back on him. I've stolen the attention of a customer away. Meanwhile, the Fae woman, for that is undoubtedly what she is, steps towards me. She's several inches taller, and I resist the urge to back away as she approaches, her high cheekbones sharp as knives and her lips pressed into something that would resemble a smile, if people could smile daggers at you. I bow my head but don't lower my eyes, keeping them fixed on her every movement. My creations, my lady, crafted with my own hands. I know just enough about the Fae to understand that the ones that look like her, almost human, impossibly beautiful, are the ones with the largest purses. If I can make a good deal here, then I won't have to strike many more bargains before I have what I came for. She fingers a shiny pendant molded into the shape of a heart. What is this metal? I don't recognize it. It's a blend I invented myself, my lady. I don't bother to hide the pride in my voice. Fae understand it better than false humility. I worked hard on creating this particular metal, the balances of ores giving it a warm, inviting luster. You humans do have such a flair for these things, the woman says, her amber eyes brightening with a look I know too well. Greedy desire. The Fae may be magical, but they cannot create. Not truly in the way that we humans do. It's why they come to the market, the one day of the month sanctioned for humans and Fae to trade, and why they covet what we have despite all their mysterious powers. Our art, our talents, even, strangely, our beauty. Though I've never seen a human as pretty as the woman standing before me now. My lady, I say gently, drawing the pendant away from her hand. Her expression twists, fast as a slap, into a glower, and my heartbeat speeds up. I'm dreadfully aware of how quickly her long, powerful fingers could scratch my eyes out if she wished. I've seen the Fae do worse. But I'll risk it for the right deal. Might I suggest something more special for one as captivating as yourself? I crafted this just yesterday, and it is unique, one of a kind. I pull a small pouch from my pocket and hold out a ring. It's a band of twisting strands, their colors seamlessly traveling from light to dark, so it's unclear where one thread ends and another begins. It took me months to achieve the effect, but I know this will appeal to her. This is what the Fae desire so much, that tangible, tantalizing hint of human invention. To them, our artistry is a phenomenon, unexpected sparks of pure beauty that stand out all the more against our brutal, ugly world. Quite stunning, she murmurs with yearning, snatching it from my fingers and holding it up to the light. I'm suddenly reminded of a magpie twitching a glinting prize in its sharp beak. I believe it will suit me nicely. Absolutely, I rush to say. A sneer crosses her lips, perhaps as she remembers that as a human, I might not actually mean what I say. That's part of the reason for their lack of creativity, you see. The fair folk can't lie. And what do you want in return? Her voice turns crisp with anticipation, and the thud of my heart serves as a useful reminder that we've reached the most dangerous part of our exchange. Some people call the market the fairy fair, trying to make it sound sweet and enchanting. I wouldn't have put it past the fair folk themselves to have started that one, all the better to lure in unsuspecting humans looking for a magical time. Oh, it's enchanting, all right. The kind of enchantment that leaves you with your firstborn traded away or your world in tatters when the clock strikes midnight. Coin, I say stiffly. A handful of gold coin or 2 of silver, if you'd be so kind. She frowns, and I can tell she's disappointed. Come, surely you can think of something better than that. She reaches out to press a long, hard finger against my cheek, and I try not to shudder at her touch. How about those eyes of yours? I could make them sparkle like the stars, you know. Or your dress. She eyes my worn, plain clothes with distaste. I could give you a gown that makes you the envy of your town. If it wasn't so terrifying, I might laugh at her offer. Sure, my eyes might sparkle like the stars, but I bet they'd shine so bright I couldn't see through them anymore. And my dress would certainly make the town envious, but it would be an illusion lasting just long enough for some other jealous human to tear the thing to shreds. I would like only money from you, my lady, I repeat. A handful of gold coin or 2 handfuls of silver coin in exchange for this ring, and then our business will be concluded. She pouts, but no doubt notices that I've been careful in my wording, direct and final. There's no room to weave sneaky loopholes into the deal in the way Fae love to do. If there is a way they can turn a deal around to bite you, they will. I've never known if they just find it entertaining or if they resent having to trade with humans at all rather than just taking what they want. Maybe both. Whatever the truth is, Fae don't need to lie to find a way to trick you into signing off on your own doom. Very well, she huffs as if I've spoiled her fun before handing over the bag of coin and sweeping away, admiring her new purchase as she goes. Here, I dig out one of the gold coins she's just given me and hand it to the baker for his trouble. After all, if it weren't for me, he might now be able to make the most irresistible cakes this side of grandom, or find himself sporting a full head of hair where his bald pate currently shines quite cheerfully. Though, considering how most deals end, maybe I've done him a favor. He examines the coin suspiciously, and I can tell this isn't his first Fae market. Just remember to trade it to one of the Fae for something actually useful before the day is out, I say. Fae money is only worth anything to them, really. Take it back across the twining line and it'll be nothing but a pile of pebbles or dead leaves by morning. That's why I need to get busy spending mine. I make a few more sales on my way across the market. Always cautious, always wary, walking a tightrope between capturing their interest and making sure I don't get ensnared in return. Eventually, I count up my Fae coin and head towards the Fae I'm truly here to see. The large, curling horns of Mydar are easy to spot, and I drop my bags of Fae coins onto the table in front of him. "Where's the rest?" he grunts with a voice like stones being ground together. I hand him the book I traded 6 bracelets to a local bookkeeper to get, and in return, he passes me a lump of rock with his black, leathery fingers. Augium ore. I run my thumb across the surface, admiring the flecks of glittering mineral in the dark material. It looks like he found a good seam, and I'm about to ask about it when the noise of the market is pierced by a single blood-curdling scream. The terrible sound comes from nearby, and I turn, with everyone else, to search out the source. Between a gathering crowd, I see a woman about 40 years old, on her knees in the dirt. I go to step closer, but a heavy hand rests on my arm, and I look up to see Mydar's goat-like eyes unusually worried.
"Don't," he says. "There's nothing you can do."
I like Mydar. Not once in the time we've been dealing has he ever tried to convince me to trade something I might regret, like my youth or my talent with metalwork. He only ever asks for tangible things, fey coin, plants, and books. He's never tried to trick me yet, which means I should probably listen to him now. But the scream sounds again, a cry of anguish, and I pull free of his hand. I want answers. Like a fire burning within me, I have to understand. My father always says this impulse is the only stupid part of me. He likes to remind me that curiosity killed the cat, and I don't have 9 lives. But it's more than mere curiosity that pushes me forward now. Someone's in pain, and maybe it is foolishness to assume I can help, but I have to at least try. It's what my mother would have done. When I get closer, I feel cold. There's something familiar about the woman, a resemblance I can't quite place while her face is twisted with sorrow and fear. "Please," she moans, her words catching in her throat between sobs. "I tried to finish it in time. I really did." Her cheeks are streaked with tears, her eyes lifted in terror. "So many excuses from your lying mouth, seamstress." Through the crowd, I glimpse a hand reaching out to brush the woman's hair. When it pulls away, there's a streak of silver running through her locks. I move forward until I have a view of the woman standing over the seamstress. No, not a woman. A fae. Her skin is white as a lily, and the braid coiled down her back shines like she's woven sun rays into it. "I beg you, please, just give me more time," the human groans. "Time? Time?" The blonde fae's angry voice borders on a shriek. "I needed that cloak before the solstice. I was supposed to wear it to the ball. What use do I have for it now?" She darts her hand out again and brushes the woman's cheek. It is just a light touch, but the seamstress flinches away with a gasp, and I see that she has a smattering of wrinkles where the fae touched her that I'm sure weren't there before. With a start, I recognize her. Her name is Clara, and she works in the town over from my village. Her cousin lives 4 streets down from me and does embroidery for her. Pretty creations that I could never afford. But the Clara I know isn't that much older than me. 25, perhaps. My blood chills a few more degrees as I take in Clara's brown hair now shot through with gray, her face etched with crow's feet, and realize why she'd first screamed. The punishment has already begun. "We can't just stand here," I murmur. My feet itch, begging me to run forward, to do something. But the rest of me rebels against them, holding me rooted to the spot. That scream, the perfect, rageful face of the fae woman, locks my body with fear.
She didn't uphold her end of the deal, says a familiar voice, and I look over to see Jethro, our village's butcher, with his wife, Gertie, in the crowd beside me. It doesn't surprise me to see them. People come from far and wide to attend the market.
The treaty is clear,
he grunts with a terrible finality. I gape at him. The treaty might allow someone to take matters into their own hands if a fair bargain is reneged on, but everyone knows the Fae don't make fair deals in the first place. Yes, but... Gertie shushes me. Don't go looking for trouble or you'll end up like her. And you've got your father to think of. I think she means well, at least more than her cold husband, but the reminder of my dad only makes me feel worse. How will Clara's family feel knowing no one helped her? How will I ever look her cousin in the eyes again? I'll make you as many cloaks as you like, just stop, please, Clara begs. The blonde simply tosses her head. My heart sinks. She isn't going to change her mind. It seems you have no problem wasting my time, the blonde rages. And I want it back. I can't look away as the blonde Fae's hand fastens around Clara's shoulders. For a moment, I think she's just going to hold her there. Then the skin of Clara's face begins to sag, and her cheeks sink inwards, growing gaunt. What brown was left in her hair fades, first to gray, then white. Then the hair itself thins, dropping from her scalp in clumps. She screeches, trying to pry the Fae's hands away, but her own are now so thin that they can only tug ineffectually at the lady's wrists. Finally, her cries falter and she coughs, spitting out teeth one by one, her mouth an empty cavern of pink gums. Only then does the Fae step away, satisfied. My hands shake with anger and horror, but I tell myself there's nothing I can do. Moving against a Fae who hasn't wronged me personally would break the treaty. At best, that's a death sentence. At worst, well, there's always a chance the Fae in question might take things into her own hands first. There are some things worse than death. Instead of fighting back directly, I do what I can. Breaking free from the crowd and going to Clara, I throw myself down in the mud beside her. It's all right, I say gently between her sobs, but I don't think she can hear me. I reach out to touch the frail hand clutched over her face, but she draws away, her glossy eyes taking in the terrible border of fallen teeth and snowy hair that surrounds her. She scrambles to her feet, her sparrow-like legs carrying her surprisingly quickly away from the clearing. She's running, nearly stumbling with each step, and we're close enough to the twining line that it doesn't take long for me to realize what she's planning. No, don't! The twining line is the fairy ring that separates the market from the human realm. All you'll see is empty field until you step across it, and the barren dirt of Stirland suddenly gives way to the bright colors of the market. Bright, too, is the border of toadstools that marks the line with unnatural neatness. They're deep purple, delicately formed, and extremely poisonous, as beautiful and deadly as the Fae that await you on the other side. I don't catch Clara in time. Her fingers close around the magenta flesh of the mushrooms, snatching them up and cramming them in her mouth. They work their poison quickly. Her moans shift into a hacking cough. She's choking, and I watch, powerless, as bloody froth spills from her lips. She slumps to the ground, violently shaking one moment, perfectly still the next.
I wonder if I'm going to throw up, then hear footsteps behind me. A cluster of people, smaller than the original crowd, have followed us to the twining line. Jethro is there, and he has the audacity to tut at the withered corpse on the ground, as if chastising her for causing such a scene. "Do you consider this fair punishment?" I hurl at him, clinging to anger to keep from heaving my guts up.
"It was her choice to end it,"
he says gravely.
"And it could have been worse."
I want to laugh. I want to scream. What could possibly be worse? Gertie answers for me.
"Didn't you hear about that dairymaid over in Burton who wanted her beau to come back to her? Her death wasn't nearly so easy, nor so quick. But she got what she should have known was coming for making a deal with that Ruskin Blackcoat."
I shiver at the mention of the name, and part of me wants to just let the subject drop. But my curiosity kicks in, as it always does. It bothers me that I can't call to mind the dairymaid she's talking about. "What happened to her?" I ask. Gertie looks at me with a face full of warning, like she wants to knock some sense into me.
"For 2 weeks, she was the most beautiful thing that town ever saw. Then she started coughing up blood. Day and night, she was in agony, and the medicine woman couldn't do anything for her. She'd made a deal with Blackcoat, and he'd delivered all right. Except when he'd prettified her outsides, he'd rotted her insides too. It was the better part of a year before that poor soul left this earth. I hear she was begging for death in the end."
Gertie nods at the body before me.
"At least her suffering wasn't drawn out. At least she got a say."
Maybe the notorious dealmaker would have been more ruthless, but either way, these deaths feel awful, cruel, unnecessary. Everyone knows bargaining with the Fae can cost you, but this much? Isn't there a line? Some limit to what they can take? I stare miserably down at what remains of Clara, streaked with mud and blood. Just another broken toy discarded by the Fae.